Hey guys, Erin here with Southern Girl Exotics. Welcome back to my channel. So this is a requested video. Somebody a couple weeks back had commented in one of the previous videos that you wanted me to do a video that is directed towards what I foresee in the Garg market. This is actually a great topic to be discussing because we are talking about an animal that has been underrated up until these last couple of years, and especially this year has skyrocketed in popularity. Last year was amazing how many people were getting excited about them, but already this year, sales have been insane on gargoyle geckos, and I'm loving it. My DMs blow up all the time with people wanting to get their first gargoyle gecko, asking all the right questions, wanting to inquire about their behaviors and what they eat and how to care for them, and I am loving it. This is awesome, not only for this animal, but for our hobby, and especially to us as breeders. Something that we've invested our time and our money in to grow, and now it's actually getting the recognition that it deserves. So this is a great, great topic. However, it is solely going to be based on my opinion. There is no way for me to accurately predict what we can expect, but we are going to touch on some things that we all need to consider when we're trying to predict how a market is going to go. And so that at the end of the video, hopefully you guys can just make your best educated guesses, because I don't necessarily know, even after all the note taking I've done to make this video, I don't necessarily know that by the end of the video I'm giving you a straight answer, but I'm definitely giving you facts and things you need to consider so that you can make your best educated guess on whether or not these animals are going to do amazing. Are they going to flop? What can we expect? Now, there's two ways to dissect this question or this video when we're asking what do we predict with the market. So the first way is we're going to talk about financially. Are Gargs going to topple and just bottom out? Are they going to increase in value? Are they going to hold steady? What do I feel like we can expect in that aspect? And then the second part that we can kind of dissect this question into, or this topic into, is going to be, where do we see Gargs going as far as traits and evolving in the hobby? Are we at our max of what we can do with them, or do we still have, excuse me, I just ate lunch, or do we still have a ton of work to be done with them? So again, I'm going to touch on a bunch of different topics and give you guys some things to think about, so that hopefully at the end of the video, if this is a topic you're considering or questioning, you have all the facts, at least as far as my opinion goes, and you can make your own educated guess. So if you guys like the video, definitely give it a thumbs up. If you are new here, please subscribe. Those of you that have already been subscribed and continue to support the channel, I say it every video, you are amazing. So it's been so much fun meeting you guys, talking in my DMs, talking on the video comments. It's just been an awesome, awesome experience. Some of y'all have been jumping on my live, so I even feel like I've gotten to know a lot of y'all pretty personally. It's been so much fun. This YouTube channel really has done so far what I wanted it to do, which was really open up a connection for me and other parts of the community. So you guys are amazing. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for supporting the channel. I'll see you guys in a little bit. All right, guys, so there are a few things that absolutely affect the market of any species, of any consumer product, right? And a couple of those things are in our control and some things are out of our control. One of the big things we just witnessed last year is the economy. When the economy starts going down, everything starts getting crazy, outrageous, expensive, all markets are affected, including animal. Anything that is a consumer market is going to be trickled down into, and it's going to slow that. People are hurting for money, and so it's going to be affected. That is absolutely something that is out of our control. However, we can predict and kind of prepare for it. You know, last year I saw so many people that spent the entire year bitching about the slowing of the market, but made no adjustments to their breeding routines, to how much they were breeding, how much they were spending. They just bitched the entire time about the market and made no adjustments so that they could better prepare and be in a better spot when it actually hit its plateau of how low it was really going to stoop. So we can kind of see it coming. It's all a matter of what you do when you see it. If you are noticing that the market is slowing down, prepare for that. Next is oversaturation. We see it all the time with animals that skyrocket into popularity. Oversaturation absolutely terrifies the market. It is a horrible, horrible thing that we seem to do whenever we have animals that all of a sudden shoot up in popularity and in high demand. It is in our control as individuals. Unfortunately, where it lies out of our control is that we have to rely on an entire community of breeders of that species to make the same smart decisions, and even people that aren't breeding that species to want to put that species and other breeders first by staying not breeding that species and oversaturating the market. Unfortunately, it's probably an even split in this industry of people that are here to make money and people that are here because they're passionate about the species, and they really are negatively affected by oversaturation. So again, it's probably mostly, I would say, out of our control. However, as individuals, if we all worked collectively to make the right decisions for these species, we really could have better turnout when it comes to oversaturation. Next is going to be other countries that buy up our animals and then sell them back to us. We see it all the time. We just had it done with Gargs right before COVID and through COVID. Asia went crazy. Koreans went crazy over gargoyle geckos. They were paying some of the most stupidest money for our high demand, high quality gargoyle geckos. But what happens is they buy them all up, which makes the value of these animals skyrocket. There's no reason, it's just not smart business for all these breeders, US side, to sell to us for tons cheaper than what Asian market's buying, when Asian market will keep buying it at that higher price. So Gargs were outrageous about 3 years ago. Then they kind of leveled out right about COVID time, right at the end of COVID time. And now they've kind of stabilized. However, what's to come, and we have to really be careful with, is now that Korea has bought up all of our gargoyle geckos, they're now to a point that they are pumping out some of the most killer animals over there. And then what do? They sell them back to us for dirt cheap, and it crashes our market. So when exporters from other countries buy up our shit real fast, it seems like the best thing in the world to ever happen to the market. We're all super excited. We're all making money. Beautiful animals are being made. And then it comes back to bite us in the ass because they start importing them back to us at a fraction of the cost. And naturally, we can't compete with that US side. So it crashes our market. Next is going to be difficulty breeding. Difficulty breeding a species absolutely helps it to maintain its value. We've seen it with lychees. Not only does it deter people from wanting to breed this species, but they also they have to be raised to a certain maturity, usually 3 to 4 years before lychees are ready to breed. They're also incredibly violent. So you take big losses. So it's really slowed people from wanting to breed them, but it's also really slowed the production. You don't get as many lychees born from breeding or even oversaturated market of breeders, people wanting to breed them, because the consistency isn't there. And Gargs is like that too. Gargs, you have to get them to a certain maturity. You really, really do. Most will not start ovulating until they reach a certain age. Males especially typically need to be a certain age and size before they'll start trying to breed with females. And then, of course, you have first year and second year, even second year females that tend to be hit or miss. And even then, you can even have older females that are in more years of breeding, more seasoned with breeding, and they're still maybe hitting 2 clutches, 3 clutches a season, and then you'll have some that might pump out 8 or 9 clutches in a season if you keep them paired. So that absolutely helps these animals keep their value, because their egg production is not as consistent as like crested geckos, ball pythons, and their egg hatch rate is not as consistent as like crested gecko eggs or by ball python eggs. All right, so since we now know some things that absolutely influence the market of any species we're working with, let's talk about the first part of this topic, the money side, the value of gargoyle geckos. Do I predict they're going to skyrocket, plateau, drop, and flop? I'm not going to give you a straight answer on this because I don't know what to expect. I can tell you the factors that I am considering, my concerns, as well as things I'm looking forward to when it comes to that part of this topic. But I cannot give you an actual prediction because I just don't know. There's too many factors that weigh in. Right now, the Garg market is in incredible standing. Gargs are still moving left and right at good value dollar. They're not as expensive as they were when Koreans were buying them up about 4 years ago, 3 years ago. However, they're still holding good value. Breeders have been very smart. They're not freaking out because things have slowed a little bit and just dropping prices to stupid prices so that nobody else can make any money or compete or feed their animals from the income they're making off of them. The Garg market has been very, very smart in how we have handled the dropping of the market and the economy in general. However, when we have an animal that is skyrocketing in popularity, that is in high demand, and especially when we have the double whammy of other species that have been oversaturated crashing in a market like they did last year, crested geckos, ball pythons, all the really oversaturated animals that were still selling, even if they was only selling for a few pennies here and there, they absolutely flopped. Well, what happens is those breeders are looking to recover that cost, and what they tend to hone in on is going to be a species that is in high demand, growing in popularity, that they can quickly recover those losses. Gargs are a perfect target for that. I have already at the beginning of the year, when everybody's sharing their upcoming pairings of new cows and all that, I noticed how many people were sharing Gargs they were putting together. People I never even knew bred Gargs or even kept Gargoyle geckos. They were sharing these animals that they were planning on pairing this year. That absolutely makes me nervous. It makes me nervous that we are going to run into an oversaturation issue sooner rather than later. However, I don't think we have to worry about that at least for the next 3 to 5 years. That's not very long, I promise you. It seems long when you say it, but it's not that long. It will sneak up on you. You will be right in the middle of hitting your prime time and breeding them if it is something you're thinking about doing, only to find that the market has become oversaturated right when you get started. So I do worry about oversaturation when it comes to the value of Gargoyle geckos because it will drop them. But what I can confidently say is for right now, this year, focusing on this year, Gargs are in an amazing place. And I do not foresee that being affected negatively, at least for a few years ahead. The fact that they have grown so much in popularity, the fact that sales are showing how adored and fascinated people have become with this species this year, last year, but especially this year, I think we are set with responsible breeding and smart breeders, the way that's already been handled. I think we are on a safe track to continue to see the value actually rise in Gargoyle geckos. Again, it can fluctuate. It will fluctuate. Not can, it will. But I do feel confidently that we are going to continue to see a rise, especially in high valued Gargoyle geckos, and especially as the amount on the market is lessened by the demand. So that is also going to raise their value briefly. Nonetheless, I am very excited as far as the future for Gargoyle geckos, not only in the financial aspect, but also for them in general. It's just going to be super exciting. Now let's talk about the second part of this topic, which is going to be, are we at the peak of Gargoyle gecko development in the hobby? Like, is there more to be done for them, and how is that going to affect the market? If eventually we run out of things to do with Gargoyle geckos, yeah, it's going to drop the market a little bit. People love fresh, new designer morphs, and that is what a lot of us work towards. We want those little anomalies that come from breeding that you didn't expect. We want those unique traits and colors that we haven't seen before. We want that fully covered gargoyle gecko that everybody is so hard working towards right now. And yes, when it comes to reds, we've about accomplished what can be done with reds. We have seen Tiki's Geckos has one. I don't know if I think they produced it. It's a Pennywise and Deadpool kid, I think. Tampax, I hate that name. I think it's so gross. And of course, it's immature boys that would name it that have no idea about a woman's cycle. Anyways, off my soapbox. Anyways, I think it's a disgusting name, but it is a very beautiful animal. It has a ton of saturation for a striped animal. J Reptiles, if you guys follow them, they have done killer stuff with, like, I don't even want to say it's fully saturated backs, because they're not. It's just a wide spread of color on the backs of these animals. And it's some color is a little bit opaque, so it's kind of, it's really cool. They're very unique color traits that J Reptiles is doing, especially with oranges. But as far as reds and even red blotches, we've about conquered it. We are seeing even blotched red animals that are going to be very soon completely covered animals. I think reds are always going to have a place, because that is part of the appeal to gargoyle geckos, the fact that there's not many animals out there that portray the vibrancy and the saturation of reds and oranges the way that gargoyle geckos do. So there's always going to be a place for reds. However, I think reds are just the beginning. There is still so much to do with gargoyle geckos. I have been promoting this for the last 2 years on my page about oranges. I am obsessed with oranges. I don't want to just have any oranges. I want 6 striped oranges. I want orange blotches that have a ton of coverage and saturation, but I want to try and also isolate into tangerine oranges. That's what I want to work on. I want to see some tangerine oranges. Those are my favorite. I don't really like the reddy oranges. It's kind of throws you off because you don't know what to call it. Is it a red? Is it an orange? So I like to have that clear division. Plus, it makes really beautiful contrasty animals when you have that bright tangerine orange or that crisp bloody red. That is one of my favorite reds. But there is a ton to be done still with oranges. J Reptiles, like I just mentioned, they're one that have oranges that are almost completely covered. The striped animals that they have that are orange are almost completely covered in orange. It's just an incredible, incredible animal. But we also run into the fact that there is no real consistency. You may be able to produce 1 or 2 from each pairing that is to that consistency, but most of the time, most people are only creating 1 or 2. Most of them are going to be a holdbacks, so only a few are really out there and regularly available. So we see it all the time in captive breeding too, where you just get lucky. You put 2 really cool animals together and they produce this funky pattern you never expected, or this funky color we never expected. My one boy I've been showing on social media that everybody is in love with, I'm in love with him too, is my orange base male. I've never seen another orange base gargoyle gecko like this animal. He's breeding this year. I have not repaired his parents since he's been produced, so I'm hoping to repair them next year and see if I get some more, but so far I haven't been able to recreate him. We'll see after this year if the female he's with lays any eggs. Nonetheless, there is still so much to be done with oranges: base color, color traits, and then pattern traits. I don't know if most of y'all know about the clown morph that is out there. It was mentioned 2 or 3 years ago. Matt Kowarski, I think is how you say his last name. I think he owns Skull Monsters. Anyways, I reached out to him not too long ago just to see where he was with the project, if he had any updated pictures, and he didn't. He sent me the same picture of the one that he showed 2 years ago. So I don't really know how far he's come with it or if he's even been able to recreate it. But those are the type of little anomalies that happen sometimes that we get really excited about, and we'll see more of them moving forward with Gargs. Not to mention black and whites. If somebody can isolate rich blacks with high whites in adult gargoyle geckos, it's insane what these animals could look like with less patterning too, especially on stripes. I've seen a couple, of course, they're more yellowy and they'll probably grow into be browns. Nonetheless, though, with the lack of patterning, it is incredible. It's just absolutely incredible what can be done with black and whites. And then, of course, we have yellows and blacks. I've seen a couple insane, crisp yellows. Not that off yellow, not that almost dirty white yellow that we see a lot of the times. I'm talking like a bright sunshine yellow with dark black. Reticulated animal. It was stunning. People have tons to still work towards. We have to move away of wanting to just breed what's in high demand and start focusing on things that we enjoy and want to come to term with when it comes to breeding these animals. Like, what are you interested in breeding? We don't have to always breed what's in high demand. And reds, they're at their peak, and we are about completed with what we're going to do with reds. So if you are wanting to get into gargoyle geckos, I would totally say focus on something rare. Focus on something we haven't done yet, because there is a ton of stuff to still be done. Pattern traits are another thing in Gargs. We only have the two main patterns, which is the striped and the reticulated. If we can start finding, if people are paying attention when they're breeding, even if it's just small little differences in the patterning that we can continue to breed, there's still a lot to be done with gargoyle geckos. I think that the market in that aspect is nothing but sunshine. I think that we only have up to go. But again, you're going to have to start focusing on some other areas with breeding gargoyle geckos than just reds. Bicolors is another one. People are going crazy over bicolors. I love bicolors too. That's when you have the orange and the red in the dorsal. One stripe is red. Usually the outer stripe is orange. A lot of times when they grow into adults, they become one solid color. Well, we're seeing more and more animals that are keeping the bicoloring. I actually just traded last year for a blotch that has bicoloring. Like literally the blotch is half is orange and like the outline is more of like a reddy orange. It's a really beautiful animal. It's breeding this year for the first time, and it's actually kept that bicoloring. But most of the time we don't. So if we can start isolating animals that are actually keeping the bicoloring, we can do some incredible things by expanding that coverage and keeping that bicoloring. So there is so much to still be done when it comes to the advancement of morphs and traits and gargoyle geckos. I am not concerned about that at all. But again, the only big thing when it comes to the market, I would say we really need to be leery of is going to be the oversaturation. That is a high concern for me, and it is not only going to affect financially so many of us, but it is going to affect the ability to advance the species any farther. Because if we don't have a little bit of income coming in, it makes it really hard to afford to keep breeding these animals and feeding them and growing our collections. And if nobody's buying the babies that we're producing because there are so many on the market, then we can't move babies to open up room to make more babies and continue to advance the species. So that is my only concern. But like I said, I think we have a good while before we need to worry about oversaturation, at least another 3 to 5 years. For some of you that have not started breeding yet, that does not look good for you, because you really don't peak until about your 4th or 5th year typically. But for those of us that have been breeding for a little bit, it gives us a little time to really continue to appreciate the species and hopefully regulate our own portion of the hobby so that we're not running into oversaturation issues or other issues that could further harm the advancement of this species in the hobby. All right, guys, so what do you think? Do you think I'm wrong? What do you predict? What do you foresee when it comes to the Garg market in the future? I think that overall, we are heading in a great direction for these animals, for our hobby, for us as breeders. I'm very excited for the future with gargoyle geckos. Absolutely, we can screw it up like we do with so many other species that become popular and in high demand. So we'll just have to try and do better with it. But as far as right now, this year and even next year, I am stoked for what's to come for gargoyle geckos in this hobby, as well as us that love gargoyle geckos. I am stoked to start seeing more and more at shows. I am just excited for this species. It's going to be epic, I think. I think they are going to even blow crested geckos out of the water once more people start owning them, experiencing them, and falling in love with them. Nonetheless, you guys are amazing. As always, say it all the time in the videos. You guys are amazing for supporting the channel. Give it a thumbs up if you like the video. If you are new here, please subscribe. And y'all have an amazing week, and I will see you next week.